The world is once again standing at a critical crossroads as escalating geopolitical tensions, sudden outbreaks of violence, and major global developments converge into a single fast-moving news cycle. At the center of it all is a stark and urgent warning tied to rising conflict involving Donald Trump, who has issued a dramatic ultimatum ahead of a rapidly approaching deadline for Iran. His statement, describing the potential for catastrophic consequences if a deal is not reached, has sent shockwaves through political and diplomatic circles worldwide. With only hours remaining, the pressure is mounting on all sides as military activity intensifies and strategic targets come under increasing scrutiny. Reports indicate strikes on key infrastructure, including transportation routes and energy-related sites, while retaliatory actions and defensive preparations continue to unfold across multiple regions. At the same time, officials in Iran are urging civilians to take protective measures, reflecting the seriousness of the situation on the ground. Inside the United States, the response has been far from unified. Some lawmakers are warning against any escalation that could impact civilian infrastructure, while others argue that stronger action is necessary to deter further threats. Legal experts are also weighing in, raising concerns about the potential implications of military operations in densely populated areas. As diplomatic options narrow and rhetoric intensifies, the situation remains highly volatile, with the possibility of rapid escalation still on the table. What makes this moment even more significant is not just the statements being made, but the real-world actions already taking place, actions that could shape the direction of this crisis in the hours ahead. Meanwhile, separate but equally serious developments are unfolding across the globe, adding to the sense of instability dominating today's headlines. In Turkey, a violent shootout near a diplomatic site resulted in casualties after armed attackers opened fire outside a consulate, triggering a swift response from law enforcement and leaving authorities investigating possible links to organized groups. At the same time, a powerful explosion near a major global trade route, the Panama Canal, has raised fresh concerns about the safety of critical infrastructure after a fuel tanker caught fire and detonated near a key bridge. The incident resulted in fatalities and injuries, including emergency responders, and is now under active investigation. In the United States, dramatic footage has surfaced showing a motorcycle crash that narrowly avoided a far worse tragedy, as children standing nearby escaped unharmed moments before the vehicle erupted into flames. Witnesses describe the scene as nothing short of miraculous, highlighting how quickly everyday situations can turn into life-threatening events. Adding to the international headlines, Kanye West has been blocked from entering the United Kingdom due to concerns over past statements, resulting in the cancellation of a major festival appearance. These stories, while unrelated in origin, collectively reflect a world where unpredictable events, policy decisions, and human actions are intersecting in ways that impact millions in real time. From transportation disruptions and legal decisions to acts of violence and near misses, each development contributes to a broader picture of a global environment marked by uncertainty and rapid change. Beyond the immediate crises and breaking developments, additional stories continue to emerge that further illustrate the complexity of today's global landscape. In the United States, legal proceedings are moving forward in high-profile cases that could result in severe consequences depending on the outcomes, while families across the country are dealing with personal tragedies, including incidents where individuals lost their lives while attempting to save others. At the same time, economic pressures are being felt in everyday life, with major airlines announcing increases in baggage fees due to rising operational costs, adding to the financial burden faced by travelers. Health data is also drawing attention, as recent studies indicate that a significant portion of the population is not meeting recommended physical activity guidelines, raising long-term concerns about public health trends. Meanwhile, on a more inspiring note, Advancements in space exploration continue to capture global attention as astronauts complete historic missions beyond the far side of the moon, capturing images and experiences never before achieved by humans. Moments like these serve as a reminder that even amid global tension and uncertainty, progress, exploration, and human achievement continue to move forward. As these stories unfold simultaneously, one thing becomes clear. The world is interconnected in ways that make each event, whether political, environmental, or human, part of a much larger narrative. And as new updates continue to emerge, staying informed is more important than ever, because what happens next may not only define the present moment, but also shape the future in ways we are only beginning to understand. As developments continue to unfold in real time, the intensity surrounding the Middle East situation remains at the forefront of global attention, with military movements, diplomatic pressure, and strategic signaling all happening simultaneously. The warnings issued earlier are now being viewed not just as rhetoric, but as indicators of how close the situation may be to a tipping point. Behind closed doors, officials are reportedly engaged in urgent discussions aimed at preventing further escalation, while on the ground, both defensive and offensive postures are being maintained at elevated levels. The involvement of multiple nations and the possibility of cross-border consequences have added layers of complexity, making this not just a regional issue, but a global concern with economic, political, and security implications. Energy markets are particularly sensitive to any disruption in key transit routes, and analysts warn that even limited interference could trigger ripple effects across global supply chains, affecting fuel prices and economic stability worldwide. At the same time, public messaging from various governments continues to emphasize both readiness and restraint, reflecting the delicate balance between demonstrating strength and avoiding unintended escalation. Elsewhere, the ripple effects of global instability are being felt in different forms, as multiple unrelated incidents continue to make headlines and highlight the unpredictability of current events. Law enforcement agencies across several regions are responding to emergencies ranging from violent confrontations to large-scale industrial accidents, each requiring rapid coordination and response. In one case, authorities are still investigating a deadly explosion involving a fuel tanker near a major international shipping and transit hub, raising questions about safety protocols and infrastructure resilience. In another, emergency responders were seen working quickly to contain a sudden warehouse fire that has now been classified as a potential arson case, underscoring concerns about both accidental and intentional hazards. Meanwhile, incidents involving civilians, such as near-miss traffic accidents and sudden on-road explosions, serve as stark reminders of how quickly ordinary moments can turn into dangerous situations. Each of these events, while separate in origin, contributes to a broader sense of urgency that defines the current global moment, where crises can emerge unexpectedly and evolve rapidly within hours. Amid all of this, attention is also turning toward how governments, institutions, and individuals are responding to a world that feels increasingly unpredictable. Policy decisions are being scrutinized more closely than ever. Travel restrictions and security measures are being adjusted in response to evolving threats, and public discourse is becoming more focused on preparedness and awareness. At the same time, there are still developments that reflect progress and resilience, from advancements in space exploration to ongoing efforts in international cooperation, even in the face of tension. These contrasting realities, conflict and cooperation, crisis and achievement, exist side by side, shaping a global environment that is complex and constantly shifting. As new information continues to emerge, one consistent theme remains. Staying informed is no longer optional, it is essential. Because in moments like these, understanding the full context behind each headline is what allows people to separate signal from noise and perspective from panic. As the world continues to move through a period of heightened uncertainty and rapid change. As the situation continues to evolve hour by hour, the broader implications of these developments are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore, especially when viewed through the lens of global stability, economic interdependence, and geopolitical strategy. What began as a series of isolated incidents has now converged into a complex web of interconnected events, each influencing the other in ways that are not always immediately visible but are deeply significant. The heightened rhetoric surrounding the Middle East, particularly involving the United States and Iran, has introduced a level of uncertainty that extends far beyond the region itself. Energy markets, international trade routes, and diplomatic alliances are all sensitive to even minor shifts in tone or action, and when those shifts involve military posturing or explicit warnings, the potential consequences multiply rapidly. Analysts emphasize that key strategic locations, especially maritime choke points like the Strait of Hormuz, play a critical role in the flow of global oil supplies, meaning that any disruption, whether temporary or prolonged, could trigger immediate and far-reaching economic effects. This is not merely a regional concern, it is a global balancing act where energy security, inflation, and supply chain stability are all at stake. At the same time, governments around the world are carefully monitoring developments, adjusting their diplomatic messaging, and quietly preparing contingency plans in case the situation escalates further. While public statements often reflect confidence and control, behind the scenes, there is a recognition that the margin for error is extremely narrow, and that even a single miscalculation could lead to unintended escalation with consequences that are difficult to reverse. In this environment, every statement, every movement, and every decision carries added weight, shaping not only immediate outcomes, but also long-term strategic relationships between nations. Beyond the geopolitical dimension, the human impact of these unfolding events is equally significant, though often less visible in headline summaries. In regions directly affected by conflict or instability, civilians are adapting to a rapidly changing reality, one where uncertainty has become a daily constant. Communities are adjusting routines, families are preparing emergency plans, and individuals are consuming information at a pace that reflects both concern and a desire to stay informed. The psychological toll of living under the shadow of potential escalation cannot be understated, as repeated exposure to urgent warnings, breaking news alerts, and dramatic imagery contributes to a heightened sense of awareness, and in many cases, anxiety. At the same time, across the globe, people far removed from the immediate areas of tension are also responding in their own ways, whether through discussions on social platforms, increased attention to news coverage, or shifts in personal and professional planning. This interconnected response highlights how modern communication systems have transformed the way global events are experienced, turning what might once have been localized incidents into shared international moments of attention. Meanwhile, emergency responders, healthcare professionals, and security personnel continue to operate on the front lines of these developments, responding to incidents ranging from industrial accidents to acts of violence, often under challenging and rapidly changing conditions. Their efforts underscore the reality that while large-scale events dominate headlines, the day-to-day work of managing crises, protecting civilians, and maintaining order remains constant and essential. In parallel, incidents such as near-miss accidents involving civilians, infrastructure failures, and unexpected explosions serve as reminders of how fragile safety can be, even outside of conflict zones. Each of these events contributes to a broader narrative in which preparedness, coordination, and rapid response play critical roles in minimizing harm and maintaining stability in an unpredictable environment. Looking ahead, the trajectory of these developments will largely depend on a combination of diplomatic engagement, strategic decision-making, and the ability of key stakeholders to manage tensions without triggering unintended consequences. While some pathways point toward continued escalation, others still leave room for negotiation, de-escalation, and potential resolution, though the window for such outcomes may be narrowing. International organizations, allied nations, and regional actors are all positioned as potential contributors to either stabilizing or intensifying the situation, depending on how events unfold in the coming hours and days. At the same time, economic indicators, market reactions, and public sentiment will likely continue to respond dynamically to each new development, reflecting the interconnected nature of modern global systems. In addition to geopolitical concerns, ongoing stories across different sectors, from transportation and public safety to space exploration and economic policy, illustrate that the world is not defined by a single event, but rather by a continuous stream of developments occurring simultaneously across multiple domains. Advances in science and exploration, such as missions extending beyond the far side of the moon, provide moments of inspiration and progress that contrast sharply with the tensions seen elsewhere, reminding us that human achievement continues even during periods of uncertainty. Meanwhile, policy changes affecting travel, pricing, health, and infrastructure demonstrate how governments and institutions are constantly adapting to evolving conditions, balancing immediate needs with long-term planning. In this broader context, the importance of accurate information, measured analysis, and responsible communication becomes even more critical. As audiences around the world seek to understand what is happening and what may come next, the ability to distinguish verified developments from speculation is essential in maintaining clarity. Ultimately, the unfolding events of today represent more than just a collection of headlines. They reflect a moment in time where global systems, human decisions, and unpredictable circumstances intersect. And as the world continues to watch closely, one truth remains consistent. The coming hours and days will play a defining role in shaping not only the immediate situation, but also the broader direction of international relations, economic stability, and global security moving forward.